Hey guys, welcome to Torch Cells, Stories Behind the Hood. I'm your host, Frank Vargas, aka Traveling Frankie. By now, I hope you know how this works. Someone sits there, I sit here, we happen to have a conversation, and I just happen to post them somewhere. You know the deal. And today here I am again at AWS headquarters in Doral, Florida, with someone that's been in the industry for 8+ years. And they can kind of tell me when I get it wrong, because I get it wrong all the time, and that's why I let them tell me what they do, who they are, and all that. This is what the whole thing's all about, right? So John Douglas, John, thank you very much for
Thank you.
allowing me to spend some of your time. And John, like I said, so 8+ years in the industry with AWS, veteran,
Yep.
all right, and you live in many places, and we'll touch on all that. And he's going to explain what he does for AWS, but you know the deal. That's kind of like the gravy, the icing on the cake. Before we're going to actually to get to know John, or a little bit more about John, or whatever he wants to share with us. John, right into it. Thank you again. Where are you from?
St. Mary's, Ohio.
Why?
In Western Ohio.
I'm just kidding.
I
Really?
mean, I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and
Really?
that's where essentially I grew up. That's where we ended up. My father he took a job there.
Okay, so when you said he took a job, what's your father's name?
Gary,
And your mom?
Kathy.
Kathy. And they are both from Ohio?
They're from all over. They met in St. Louis. So I was actually born in St. Louis.
Oh, wow. This is all right. So you actually have been around, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, my father, he was in the rubber industry. He worked for Goodyear.
Oh,
Goodyear
really?
Tire and Rubber Company. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you're born in St. Louis. You moved to Ohio at what age?
About third grade.
About third. All right. And then you were there for how long?
10 years.
10 years.
So yeah, I graduated.
Oh.
I graduated high school from.
Oh,
St.
okay.
Mary's, yeah.
So how is being in Ohio third all the way through high school pretty much? How was that back then? Compared to everywhere else that you've been. So you can compare because you've been places.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I can't compare that particular period of my life because that's the only place I was, but
Correct.
it was a great place to grow up.
Oh, really?
So third grade through senior in high school, graduated there in St. Mary's. It's the St. Mary's Rough Riders. It's an awesome place to grow up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I've never heard of that area. So, you know.
North of Dayton.
Okay, got it.
About an hour north of Dayton. A lot of people, if you're driving up 75, you'll see Wapakoneta.
Okay.
You'll see the Neil Armstrong Museum on the side of the
Gotcha.
road. If you get off there and go west about 15 miles, you'll be in St. Mary's.
Dayton, I know very much because I used to work for Granger on Dayton. The Dayton brand, their little engine motor thing started out of Dayton. So that's kind of how I got exposed to
Lots
that
of
town.
stuff starts in Dayton.
Yeah, correct.
Like
Yeah.
aviation.
Yeah. Well, there you go. See,
you go.
aren't you guys already learning?
Yeah.
We're done. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
That's it.
Yep. Now, how come you left at a young age, or senior year or whatever, not too long after that? Where did you go next?
I went to college at the University of Dayton.
Okay. And then from there you went to what other state?
I stayed in Ohio. Then I briefly went to another country. So as you said, I'm a veteran. So I spent a one tour in Kuwait.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was hot.
Okay. Got it. Like Florida hot? Because, I mean...
Worse.
Worse. Because it's dry heat, right?
Yeah. When we got off the plane, it felt like you stepped into an oven.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So here you are going from different seasons, cold and all that, and now you get exposed to this oven, and you're like, what is going on? Did you thought that you made the right decision at that point, or you're like, get me back?
Well, I joined the Navy, so I did not expect to go to Kuwait.
Well, that kind of makes sense, yeah.
So no, I did not expect that at all.
So how long were you there?
8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
And it was just that was the tour, or gotcha.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay? How long did you serve?
I was a Navy reservist for 6 years.
Oh, cool, awesome. Well,
So that was my only deployment.
well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We all appreciate what all of you have done. Now, so you come back, and I'm assuming now you are early 20s.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
See, I'm good with math as long as it's simple.
Yeah.
So early 20s. What do you do next?
So interestingly, it was hot, but I did not have the seasons like you said, and I actually enjoyed that part, which was not having winter.
Okay.
So when I got back from Kuwait, I made the decision to move to Florida, just on a whim. For the
So
weather. Well, I mean, kind of on a whim. I had always dreamed of moving to Florida.
really?
Yeah, I had a couple friends.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't now?
Right?
I mean, everybody moves here now.
I know, but back,
It's trendy now.
Now.
But yeah, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
I was the only one.
I get it. So when you said out of a whim, now what does that mean? First of all, you had some friends here. You had already been exposed. Have you ever been here on vacation?
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
So right,
Took
Disney,
lots of trips here. Family,
Orlando, and
went friends during college, during high school. We took some trips here. So I fell in love with the palm trees. And
so
the
what part of
weather.
Florida? Like here, South Florida?
I started in Central Florida,
Okay. Central meaning
Orlando.
Orlando. Okay, and that's where you work for the library or something.
Yeah,
All right.
I work for the county library system up in Orlando, the Orange County Library System.
Yeah.
It is an excellent library system.
Really?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
So, obviously everybody thinks of books at a library, but there's so much more that libraries offer, programs, training. I worked in an area, we did a lot of community education. We put on events in different parts of the county that could educate you on health issues. It could educate you on, we did one on fishing, like it could have been anything.
Really?
And then I moved into the technology training area. Okay. So I actually oversaw the department that did computer training all throughout the county.
Okay.
So Word basic classes, Excel basic classes,
Really?
for people who just had not learned this growing up.
Gotcha.
They had an excellent computer training program. So
That's
it's just one of those
awesome.
things you don't think of a library, but for some people, that is how they learn those computer programs that got them a job.
It's amazing that you mentioned that for many reasons, and it's actually a plug to the educational system. There's so much resources out there that people can go get their hands on and learn so many things. So now if you're not learning something, it's just an excuse.
That's right.
Right? Your phone, library, you name it. So you were in Orlando for a few years, and what happens next, and how come you decided to come all the way down to now South Florida?
Well, when I was in Orlando, I met my wife there.
Okay.
And she's from Miami.
Gotcha. And so you've been
grew up
married. You guys know I interrupt my guests, so just deal with it.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
10 years.
10 years. All right. Do you have any kids?
2 kids.
All right. Awesome. And what's your wife's name?
Myrna.
Marna. All right. Cool. Now, so you met your wife in Orlando. She is from South Florida, and she says, "I want to go back."
She was offered a job, actually.
Oh, okay.
She's a banker.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So
Cool.
She's the brains of the family,
Yeah.
as they say. So she's the banker.
I could have told you that, and I don't know her. Yeah.
Exactly. She was offered a job in Miami, so on a whim, we came. So I did not have
So this is
anything
kind of like
lined
you
up.
train on a whim. You do a lot of things on a whim.
Impulsive.
All right,
Yes,
I can
am.
see now. I'm getting that trend too. Yeah. All right, so now you come from Orlando, South Florida. Where in South Florida?
We started in Coral Gables.
Okay.
That was a great place to live.
All right, it's a nice place.
We also lived in Westchester.
Okay.
Yeah. So I tell people that, and they take one look at me and assume it's New York. But no, Westchester and Miami.
We have everything, guys. We have it all.
All of it. Yeah.
So now here you are. By that time, you came because she had a job offer, but you didn't have a job yet.
No.
Right. So you quit the library or something, right? Now, so you're here and you're trying to find your next adventure, your next thing. And how did AWS comes about? If it was after the library, or was there something in between?
There was one in between. So I worked for a nonprofit here in Miami.
Okay.
And did fundraising
Okay.
for them.
Okay. I see the alignment here. All right.
Yeah. So, which was great, and it was a great organization, but it was not the role for me.
Okay.
I was setting up, fundraising luncheons with, sweet ladies that were on our board that talked a lot about the centerpieces, and that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do with my life, is talk about centerpieces at a gala. So I started looking for
How
something.
come? That sounds like so fun. But whatever. It's not your thing. I get it.
Not my thing. So I just kind of started another job search, and the American Welding Society came up. There was a position
Which
open.
you didn't know what that was at all when you first
not at all.
looked at it, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, in fact, when I first saw it, I thought it was a mistake that it said it was in Miami, because I couldn't imagine why the American Welding Society would be in Miami.
I can see the thinking behind that. Yeah.
But no, I looked into it and came and did an interview and started. So my first position was in standards development.
So you came, you interview, you got the position.
Yeah.
All right. And now you started in what position again?
I was a program manager in standards development.
Okay, and that was like eight and a half years ago, so give or take.
Yeah, that's like 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago.
Oh, okay. All right, got it. Now, that was when, was AWS here in Doral? or was it?
Yeah, they had just moved here a couple years before that.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. Now, when you first come into the American Welding Society here, and you get offered that position, was the position itself was doing exactly what they said you were going to be doing, or it morphed into many other things, just like most companies? Like, hey, I think you can handle that too, or hey, take care of that, and so on, so on. Or it was like, here's the description. This is all you're doing for now.
It was pretty rigid. So that role in standards, you're kind of a project manager for the different committees that develop the standards.
Gotcha.
So you kind of live in that world with each of those committees, and you can and so you're doing things to progress it and to get the standards published.
Okay.
So in that role, there's not a lot of opportunity to do other things. But what it did allow me to do was to learn a lot about the industry. So I didn't have any.
Just been exposed to most committees and all that, and just kind of soaking all that in. I can imagine.
There's no better way to get a crash course, and there's actually several employees at AWS that are in different areas now that started in standards.
Got it.
Because it's such a great opportunity to understand not only the industry, but
the behind of everything.
How codes and standards work and why they're important.
Got it.
And then just getting the chance to meet people all throughout the industry.
I can see that. That's awesome. Let's go back a little bit again to the personal side. So how were you as a kid? What were you into?
Sports.
Sports?
Soccer, then baseball.
Soccer, really?
Football.
So was there a big, where was that, in Ohio or?
Yeah, Michigan and Ohio.
Really? So there was a big soccer scenario there? Or?
Yeah, youth soccer.
Gotcha.
It was like every kid played youth soccer.
Yeah.
I don't think, none of us dreamed that we could be playing for MLS because it didn't even exist at the time.
Yeah.
So
Come on, you never thought you were going to be a Messi, and sign here in
not
South
exactly.
Florida
No,
for
not exactly. So,
all the billions in the world? Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Got it. So
Maybe my next job.
Yeah. So what other sports you mentioned?
I did football.
Okay, cool.
I did football for a time, but I was about 150 pounds soaking wet playing offensive line, so that didn't work out.
Gotcha.
But then baseball was my real sport. That was the sport I ended up really focusing on as I got into high school.
Oh, really? So you played high school baseball?
Yeah.
So what position?
Left field.
Left field.
Yeah.
Were you good in it? Were you any good?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, he didn't even say. I don't know. I was pretty good. Like, yeah.
I batted .415. That's pretty good.
That is actually pretty good, guys. For those of you
But
who don't know stats, that's actually pretty good.
We had a pretty good team. Yeah. We won our conference
Awesome.
and everything.
Every time anyone mentions baseball, my eyes just lit up because I coached for so long and I played and my kids and all that. So that's like, in my back alley. So he knew how to get to my heart.
Yeah,
he did.
We could talk about baseball for like an hour.
I know. That's going to be the other show. It's I'll
Do
come
you
up with a name.
follow professional baseball then?
Most people ask me that, especially when I was coaching.
Yeah.
I coached for 15 years. I played for probably about the same time. And most people don't understand that because I was so into the game itself and at the field and everything else, I never had time to actually watch the game.
Yeah.
Because by the time I got home, I was like crashing. I was like out. Yeah. So I follow as much as I can, but I'm not that fan where I'm just stuck in front of the TV.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, I don't think I can't. I can't watch games on TV because when you play it, it's just not even close to the same.
Correct. That's the other thing.
I've never been a big fan of watching baseball because when you play it, it's.
I watch highlights. I watch players. I don't even follow. After I used to be a huge Red Sox fan, and after that, I'm more of a players fan than a teams fan. Yeah. So for whatever reason,
I'd make that choice too if I were a Red Sox fan.
Hey. We're done. Now, let's go back to the professional side, AWS. So now what is your current role here?
So I'm the associate director of our foundation.
All right. What is that? I don't know what that is.
So the foundation is essentially the charitable side of AWS.
Okay.
So the American Welding Society is an organization in and of itself. The AWS Foundation is a separate organization.
Gotcha.
So we're technically a separate nonprofit from AWS.
Okay.
Now we still all work together in the
yeah.
same building and essentially have a lot of crossover in our operations.
Of course.
But they are two separate organizations. So the AWS Foundation is we do scholarships. That's our bread and butter.
Okay. No. So again, I'm gonna. Of course, I knew this, right? But I'm still gonna play dumb. Scholarship. What is that?
So we provide scholarships for welding students across the country. to
Welding
support
students of what level? At what kinds of?
every level. So they could. So the scholarship programs really started as supporting welding engineer students,
Okay.
but as the industry continues to grow and there's obviously a need for welders,
Yeah.
there's been a lot more scholarships added for the associate degree level and the certificate. And so now about 65% of our scholarships go to short-term programs.
Now, how I'm a student, and then I'll change that question again. I'm part of, I don't know, vocational school somewhere, whatever, and low means I'm scraping just to pay my tuition. How can I find out that such a thing exists? Like how do I get those grants? How do I get those scholarships?
Well, I recommend the first thing you can do is you can go to the website, aws.org/scholarships, and that'll give a rundown on everything that we offer.
Okay.
But then I also suggest go right to the application. So the best thing that can happen is a student just finds out that we offer $2.5 million in scholarships. Hopefully their eyes light up and say, I'd like a piece of that because it's going to help with my tuition. And they go to scholarship.aws.org. That's our application.
So they can do all that on their own. They don't need a teacher. They don't need anyone. They can just find that out and then they can go and apply themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So of course we hope that teachers are spreading the word.
I know, and that was the second question. Yeah.
But a lot of times the student, they just get on, if they go on Google and look for welding scholarships, we of course are going to be one of the first ones that come up.
Gotcha. And then, so that's on the student side. The teachers, the school themselves, what do they, and the question might sound weird, but what do they get and how can they buy in more into these programs and to help the students? Like, how can they go about making sure that they create all these student chapters and all these things and everything to get the industry exposed or AWS exposed to them? How does that work on your opinion and at the AWS opinion?
I mean, I think the best thing a school can do is to become an AWS educational institution member.
How does that happen?
You can go online to aws.org and sign up, and it includes 3 individual memberships, but your school becomes a member. And that's going to get you, first and foremost, within the loop of information of everything that AWS has to offer. So there's multiple other benefits. But you're going to find out when these scholarship opportunities become available.
Okay.
When grant opportunities become available that you might be able to purchase equipment for your school. So that's what I recommend to any school is to become a member, because now you're under the umbrella now, and we're going to start taking care of you. We're going to start sharing resources with you as a school, and then that's the information you're going to give to your students. Because I can tell you, if you're an instructor and you're not sharing this kind of information to your students, that's a disservice. I mean,
exactly. What's the purpose of you becoming a teacher of any kind if you're not teaching everything to your students of everything that can happen out there, that everything that they can be exposed to? So I totally get it. Now, how do you see the student teacher school participation where it's at now versus 6-8 years ago or so? Has it really grown in a way that you go like, great, awesome, I can see that scale, or it's still too slow?
There's been tremendous growth and engagement in the last 5-6 years.
Really? Why do you think is that?
I think really what it boils down to, and obviously this has been talked about for years, but sort of the stigma with welding and skilled trades.
Correct.
That truly is going away.
That is.
And I think society as a whole is just really looking at welding and skilled trades as an amazing opportunity for young people. So everything's kind of fallen into place.
Gotcha.
So whereas I think where school districts might have said, hey, the welding program, that's something we do because we need to.
Correct.
But now I'm hearing administrators being like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
I want to grow this welding program because it's important for our community.
Correct.
So it's just that mindset change that starts at the top and trickles down. And then of course, I mean, welding instructors are as passionate as I think probably any educators. A lot of them they just really get into it for the right reasons. In a lot of cases too, because unlike, other educators, they can make a lot of money outside.
That's correct.
So most of them are doing it
for the love of the game.
For the love. And it's because they want to help young people and they want to help young people succeed in this industry. So I think the combination of all that, the buzz has really just kind of, it's like a snowball effect. It's just really been building. And I'm guessing you probably can feel it too.
No, it is. I've been in the industry for, almost 13 years now, and definitely everywhere you go, whether it could be different reasons, right? One, because I'm paying more attention to it. Maybe I'm noticing things more, right? That's one thing. But even with that being said, as I travel and as I see this wave of, let's call them influencers in the welding industry, and the kind of material, the posts, the conversations, the exposure that they are getting through their local companies, distributors, manufacturers, you name it, becoming ambassadors, it's just helping the industry as a whole. And yes, I see that. So I agree with you. But, hey, who else better to answer this? Someone that it's here in the mecca of the welding industry. Now, when those scholarships start, how does that work? Is there a time frame? What's happening next? Where are we now with it? Like, tell me the whole thing.
Great question. So we have essentially two types of programs.
Okay.
So we have our national district and section scholarships. These are scholarships, a lot of them funded by our donors, member companies, and those scholarships open on December 1st.
Okay, so they just opened a month ago.
A month ago.
Okay.
So the application process is open, and the deadline will be March 1st.
March 1st.
So that's kind of that's the largest bulk of our scholarships are those. So if anything, you focus on that time frame, December 1st to March 1st. And March 1st is that deadline, and those scholarships typically intended to be used for the next fall term.
So March 1st is the deadline to submit the application.
To submit the application.
Gotcha.
Correct.
And then after March 1st, it gets on votes or whatever the term.
So we have an extensive process. We have hundreds of volunteers that help us review applications in every part of the country.
Gotcha.
So we have a core group that reviews the national scholarships. That's our education scholarship committee. But then each AWS district and section has their own selection committee.
Got it.
So after March 1st, this process starts where simultaneously all across the country we have members who are reviewing applications, and a huge shout out to those members and volunteers. They spend thousands of hours going through these applications, and then the selection process kind of happens during any time between April and July. It's kind of staggered. So different scholarships will be selected. So that process happens through kind of midsummer.
Okay. So when you said that that's the big one, does that mean that there's another one after that?
So we have another program that we call our Welder Training Scholarship.
Okay.
And that's only for students in certificate short-term programs.
Okay.
That application is open all year.
What does a short-term program means?
Definitely less than 2 years.
Okay.
But typically we're talking about those like 6 to 9 month programs.
Got it.
At a technical or trade school.
Okay.
And so we started putting funds into these programs because we saw that need for welders to train them and get them out to industry. So we had most of our scholarships for a 4-year degree, and we just kind of flipped it when this need was really getting dire.
Gotcha.
And so now we give a ton of scholarships to these short-term training programs, the students in those programs. But, those are not typical timeframes, right? It's not like you don't go in the fall and you don't finish in the spring.
They fall under whatever it might fall.
During the year. So the genius of our chairman and the board of trustees was to create a program where a student can apply all through the year.
Okay.
And then the districts have the ability to select them anytime throughout the year. So it's just on a rolling basis.
Gotcha.
They look at the applications and they say, this person's about to go to school, they have a great application, let's give them a scholarship. And it'll be totally outside the confines of that other scholarship program that's kind of the strict deadlines. So it's just kind of 2 different ways we do it.
Got it. Huh, that's very cool. And again, you guys know how I do this. How old are your kids?
How old are they? 9 and 5.
I would hope you know, because I don't know. Yeah, 9 and 5.
Yeah.
Do they even know what welding is?
They do. Yeah.
They do?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We talk about it. I mean.
Okay. Do they show any incline as of now of, let me grab a torch, a gun, or anything, or what is that?
Yeah, I don't know to that level. So one of the things we talk about a lot is welding and also automation. So,
of course.
So my son's really into robotics and stuff like that. And so now that you can kind of tie those things together directly, you can have those conversations. Yeah.
Got it. AWS as a whole, here we are, 2024. Can't believe I'm even saying that, right? It's just nuts. But 2024, how does this year looks on paper, vision-wise, and hope-wise? What's 2024 looks like for AWS?
For AWS,
as a whole, the industry, scholarships, welders, the need, everything. What do you...
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with what I know best is scholarships and what we do in the support, and we continue to do more than we had the year prior.
Okay.
So this year we have $2.5 million in scholarships to award. So similar to what we had last year, we've added some more. So each year we add more.
Okay.
Grants for schools. We also that's a program that's now been going on for 6 years now.
Okay.
And so that program, we offer grants of up to $25,000 for grant schools.
What kind of school do you have to be eligible for a grant?
So an educational institution member is first and foremost. That's essentially the one requirement. And then other than that, that you are an organization where your primary purpose is welding education.
Got it. All right. Now, so that's on the scholarship on the grant level. And you say that every year the goal is to grow a little bit more, have more fun, so you guys can spread the love even more. And how long does it take from being approved for a scholarship or a grant before you receive the money or the funds?
It's pretty quick. I mean, once you know, then in both cases there's some additional requirements, some things you need to submit. So starting with the scholarship, you might win the scholarship, and then the next thing you need to do is now produce your enrollment. So we want to see that you've actually enrolled in that school.
Of course.
You're also going to provide us a photo.
Gotcha.
You're going to provide us a thank you note. That's
the least you can do.
The least. No, but actually, that's the easy part. We get some really passionate thank you notes. So yeah, there's a few additional requirements, and once that happens, we get the check off to the school. So matter of 3-4 weeks, and then the grants for the schools work similarly. Once they know that they get that, they can start to submit their invoices and receipts for the different purchases they've made.
Gotcha.
And we send the funding right out.
What would you say is the biggest stigma or the not known enough about AWS and what you guys do? Like, what would you say is that one thing that someone usually has a hard time understanding exactly what you guys do?
Exactly what we do as a whole?
Yeah, as a whole.
I mean, good question. I mean, I think it's always obvious to us that we are the standard bearer, codes and standards.
For you guys that are in it, it makes sense and all that.
It does, but I think it's interesting that, if you learn about us for the first time, some people think we're a union. Like, that's kind of the first thing that goes into some people's minds, especially if you're not in the industry.
Correct.
So then you sort of explain that we're the ones that we write the codes and the standards. But yeah, if for someone in the industry, I'm trying to think of something that, I'll just keep it in the same area that they might not know about, is the opportunity to work on these standards.
Gotcha.
So just like I said, I started in standards development.
Yeah.
Whenever I meet scholarship recipients and they're graduating, and so they've kind of completed this portion of the relationship with us where we've been supporting them to go through school. They're going to be out in the industry, and obviously we hope they become members, but we want them to stay active and be active members. And one of the things I always suggest is look into standards committees. You've got the D11, which everybody knows, but there's standards across so many of the different industries, the different welding processes, whether it's aviation or machinery and equipment or maritime. Each one of those has its own codes and standards. And if you're somebody that works in that area, you can go get involved and you start to meet people that are, all over the country, all different companies. And you'll hear time and time again that opportunity has made people's careers just launch into the stratosphere because they get the connections, they get the knowledge that they just would not have had they stayed kind of working in their own area, maybe reading trade magazines and such. I mean, once you start getting in these groups where they're talking about some of these issues, and you go through the document, and you look at a certain clause and see how it needs to be reworded, or maybe there's been something learned in the industry that needs to affect these numbers over here. I think that that's something that everybody should know, that that's an opportunity for them. And it's one of those things that I think that it was a culture of a generation
Correct. I
above
agree.
us that they were involved in groups like that, and it's not necessarily part of the culture of the upcoming generation, but we
To
need
want
that
it, to
because
want to be
the
part of it.
standards, yeah, they only can be updated if you have the people to update them.
I totally agree, and you're right. Most of the older generation loved always to be part of these committees and these decision makers and change everything about anything. The only thing that has changed in my eyes, my opinion, it's the way that we promote it or the way that we present it to the younger generation on why it's important. And you, unfortunately or fortunately, you have to add, this is why it's also fun to be part of this. Because if you don't make it fun, if you don't make it appealing to them, you're done. It's not going to work. You're not going to get them.
And I think people see that once you go to one of these meetings or go to one of these events.
Yeah.
The networking aspect of it just energizes people. But you don't know until you try it.
I totally
and so that's
agree.
Again, all these meetings are open.
Yeah.
You can apply to be a member of the committee. You can become a voting member of the committee and really have a stake in the production of that standard. But anybody can go to a meeting and just sit in and listen in and go meet people afterwards.
So where can people find about these meetings?
AWS.org. There's a master calendar actually that shows all the upcoming meetings, the different committees where they're meeting across the country.
So anyone can go and sit in these meetings without even being part of AWS yet?
Yeah.
Or yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm just walking through the streets and somebody says, "Hey, come to this meeting," and I can just sit in.
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
It's actually part of the governing body's process. So
Gotcha.
ANSI that governs all standards in all industries. These are open consensus standards.
Correct.
And part of that is to allow any viewpoint to come
that's
in.
how you're going to get people in. So I get it. Cool, that's awesome. Married, 2 kids. What are you into nowadays in your personal life? What do you do for fun?
Travel with my family.
Yeah.
Chase my kids around. They play sports.
Yeah.
I do that.
How much traveling do you do for business for AWS?
Some, a few times a year. I did more when I was in the standards committees and traveling for those meetings.
Okay.
Now, Fab Tech is obviously a big part of our travel, and then I get a few opportunities throughout the year. I'm getting an opportunity soon to go to Ohio to visit a couple companies, a couple schools. So that'll be really great.
Yeah.
But other than that, not too much. So kind of a mixture of family.
Gotcha. So when you are at Fab Tech, now that you mentioned Fab Tech, and that's the big show for the industry, what's your role there, and what's your days look like while you're there?
Well, at Fab Tech is one of the times of the year that our board of trustees for the AWS Foundation meets. So we get together and we sort of present to them the accomplishments of the year, the outcomes, and then obviously that's to set the guidance for the next year.
Of course,
those trustees are saying here's the kind of things that we think we can do to help industry. So that meeting happens there. And then we also participate with a lot of stuff AWS does, the different events.
Yeah.
We contribute to some of the panel discussions that happen at Fab Tech. And then the last couple of years, we've had a nice ceremony for the scholarship and grant recipients that are in attendance. We invite them, call them up on stage.
That's nice, some recognition,
that they can be recognized. And then other than that, just networking, meeting people like you. I was part of a group that.
Isn't he lucky?
I'm very lucky, and you're one of the ones early on that. So I was part of the group that started the Arcs and Ales, which is our kind of networking event.
Correct.
And we had never done anything like that in the past, and so we started it, and it started small, but it's now kind of built into this big thing that's part of every Fab Tech.
I know,
and just a great time. To go network with people. So. That's it. We're there to meet people. We're there. We have so many donors. There's so many companies.
To say thank you.
Donors. That one of the best things we do is just to get to walk around, go to the company, and say thank you for your support.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love Fab Tech.
Yeah, I know. It's a. Hey, see?
There you go. See?
Yeah, I didn't even know we were going to touch on that, but I'm rocking my hat.
We were just talking about it in Orlando. We were looking at where the booth is and. We're all very excited for Orlando.
I know it's going to be fun. I get to drive. 3.5 hours, 3 hours or so. So I'm excited as well. Now, is there anything else that you think that you want to share for scholarships, grants, or anything like that that you think we've missed?
I mean, we sort of already touched on it,
Okay.
but the ability of everybody in the industry to be a part of spreading the word.
Gotcha.
You don't have to be just an instructor. You don't have to have a child that's of that age to tell them. If you're working at a distributor, working at a company, spread the word in your community. I heard somebody say that it was brought up in a church about welding scholarships.
Really?
They talked about it. So that we want everybody to understand that there's this opportunity, and every single person in the industry, every member can have a role in that. And then I guess the second thing I would say is not only are they spreading the word, but our members are responsible for these programs. So I mentioned our donors. Lots of companies, lots of individuals have created scholarships within the foundation. But a lot of our scholarships are simply started through funding that AWS provided through membership and everything that happens at AWS. A portion of that always ends up coming back to the foundation and helps build these programs. Wow. So I think it's incredibly important for each AWS member to know that by being an AWS member, you've already played a role in shaping the future of this industry. Because you've supported these scholarship programs.
Correct.
The reason we can give $2.5 million in scholarships is because of the strength of our membership.
Got it.
And that just continues to grow. And it's not always clear, that connection there, but I always tell members, I mean, you did this. The reason that we can go and say, hey, we award $2.5 million in scholarships is because of you.
Yeah, it's teamwork. No one gets there on their own. So definitely I think everyone plays a part. For as small of a footprint that I have in the welding industry, that's exactly what I try to do. Just kind of share that the welding industry has been good to me. Yeah. And definitely, just like I coached baseball for so long, now I just try to coach in different ways. That's all it is. I love to see the youth, see when their eyes just kind of, like, I didn't know that. It's like, well, I've been telling you for 6 months, So it's nice.
And one of the best things you can do that you do really well is connect people.
Well,
so it's not even necessarily spreading the word, but if you can say, hey, this person would really benefit by meeting this person. I think when you're somebody like us who've had an opportunity to meet so many people in the industry, you always say, what are the connections I can help make?
Correct.
And it's been great to see that
and
happen.
And
then just see later how it flourishes and see what it turns into. It's great.
No, it's I used to tell most of my kids, or any public speaker, or anyone that actually is going to speak to anyone in public, which is the great line from the great movie Spider-Man, with great power come great responsibility. So anytime you get exposed to talk to anyone out there, that you have 2, 3, 4, 5 ears listening, you can change someone's life. So definitely, it's an industry that I love. I'm in it. I didn't even know it existed 13 years ago. Now here I am doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still doing it. But thanks to people like you, the AWS and industry and manufacturers and schools and teachers and educators out there that put so much effort into pushing this industry to what it is. It's amazing. I get goosebumps just talking about it because it's a great feeling to know that there's a lot of people batting for it and trying to make it happen for that generation that's coming next.
Yeah, if there's anything that I really enjoy seeing is that we have a big impact, but our impact is starting to feel smaller because so many other organizations, governments are really
buying in,
and they're pouring not only financial resources, but the time and the passion that's needed.
That's it.
To really grow this. And I think, as we know, I mean, it's necessary. We're so much manufacturing coming back, so we're going to constantly need welders, but it's an exciting time. There's so much growth.
It is.
There's so much passion. And, I say for young people in particular, I mean, there's probably no better time to join this industry.
Oh, are you kidding? I agree.
We were talking about the transition from flip phones to iPhones earlier. I mean, that's happening in the welding industry. So like I said, you can be someone like my 9-year-old son and be really into robotics. That's the future of welding. That's the future of metalworking. It's just very exciting. So there's going to be a lot of what the traditional welding that's happened in the past, but there's going to be all these new technologies
that can merge and work together.
Yeah, so it's it wasn't like that when I was coming out of high school.
No, because most of us, all we saw in the welding industry back in the day, it was grandparents or whatever, 30 covering smog, the overalls, the I'm like, oh my God, something was set on fire, and the thinking that most of us had about being a welder was like, I don't want to be under a car or under a train, for 12 hours. Guys, when we say welders are going to be needed, 300,000, 400,000, whatever the number is, we're not saying just the guy holding that torch, right, holding that gun. It's the industry as a whole that's going to need that many people, engineers, manufacturers, you name it. There's a combination that make up that whole big number. And so you don't have to be just that one guy. It could be many different guys out there with many different positions.
So many. I mean, yeah, becoming a welder is really, that's the first step in the door. That opens the rest of the doors. And another place, if you go to careersinwelding.com, you can see.
Oh, now you're going to mention that?
Yeah, so that's where you can go and see some of these jobs we're talking about.
Correct.
You can be an inspector, you can be an educator, you can be in technical sales. There's so many opportunities.
Sky's the limit, guys, and I hope you see this and learn a little bit of what you can do to promote the welding industry, to promote the youth in your towns, and really know that there's funds out there and help and resources. And it's not always about money. There's always just someone that can say, hey, grab my hand, let me teach you some stuff. But for that older generation, you have to be willing to pass down that knowledge, because if it dies with you, then what the hell did you do this for, right? So share that knowledge. Younger generation, receive that knowledge and do something with it.
Scholarship.aws.org, deadline March 1st.
These guys are professional.
Money's not everything, but it's great if it can help pay for welding school. So
there's no way I could have said that better. All right, John, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Frank.
Yep.
Pleasure.
Guys, you know how this works. Somebody else, at some other time, a new conversation. Take care. Bye.